Hello there, this is Rodrigo from Frame Freak Studio, and this is the Creative Hustler Show. And now I have a really amazing invited guest here. She's an amazing artist. She has worked in a lot of projects that I love, and I feel like really happy to have her here. So, welcome, Brenda Chapman.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So, first of all, I would like to ask you a little bit about your history for all the people who don't know about it. How did you get started into these creative endeavors?
Well, I started out when I was very young, just drawing all the time, and I grew up in a really small town in central Illinois, farming community, and there was no internet, nothing at that time, so I didn't even know what an animation geek was. I just went home every day after school and watched Bugs Bunny and the Looney Tunes and Tex Avery and went to Disney movies whenever they came out in a neighboring town. But I found out about CalArts through a friend of a friend of a friend, that kind of a thing, and applied to CalArts for the character animation program, California Institute of the Arts, and I didn't make it in the first time. So I had to work really hard, draw a lot, take more art classes, and I made it in the second time I applied. I didn't give up. And I spent 3 years there studying character animation and realized on my third year there that what I really loved about animation was the story part of it. And the late, great, wonderful Joe Ranft was the one who sort of nudged me in that direction. He saw my boards for my third year film about a little old lady who was alone on her birthday and said, "Hey, did you ever think about going into story?" As I'm sitting there going through what I felt was the tedious part of animation, which was actually the animation while I was flipping the pages and trying to figure out how to make things move. I was like, oh yeah, because I did. I loved the part about solving the puzzle of the story and the characters and all of that. So I ended up at Disney as a story trainee. And my first film was The Little Mermaid. And I went on to work on Rescuers Down Under, Beauty and the Beast, and Fantasia 2000 when it was in its early phases, and Hunchback of Notre Dame, but I was head of story on The Lion King. And then when Jeffrey Katzenberg left Disney to start DreamWorks, I went with him and helped develop the story department, and then ended up directing Prince of Egypt, or co-directing it with Simon Wells and Steve Hickner. And then I took time out to have a child and hang out with my family, and then I went back and then consulted sort of long distance on different things at DreamWorks, and then moved on and consulted on things at Universal and Sony, and then went to Pixar. Joe, my dear friend Joe Ranft, called me and said he needed some help on Cars with the female characters, which by the time I got there, it was way too late. And but I ended up developing and creating, inspired by my daily arguments with my daughter, Brave. So I spent nearly 7 years on Brave there, and then after that I consulted on a couple of things for Lucasfilm, and went back to DreamWorks for a little while, and now I'm working independently with my husband and writing a script with him, and I just finished a script for a Chinese company, and I'm going to be directing a film based on a Chinese folktale, but it's going to be animated in the States or in Canada, and yeah, it's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm writing a lot, which I'm really enjoying.
Awesome. And yeah, actually, this is one of the questions that I wanted to ask you about Brave, because when we were there in the movies, that felt like really personal. So I wanted to ask if it was like there was some personal experience there.
Yes, very personal experience. You know, my daughter was 4 and 5 when I was thinking about putting something together, and every morning before I went to work, she would just argue with me about having a bowl of cereal or getting up for school or whatever it was. She was just really, she is a very strong pushback kind of gal, and it would drive me crazy, and I'd be fuming about it all the way into work. And so I realized I had to, focus that passion and energy into something creative, and thus Merida and Brave was born. So we're born.
Nice. And what about the experience with the female characters in Cars? Because I, for one, like when I started entrepreneurship, there was a moment where I had all my mentors who were men, like very aggressive kind of, let's hustle, let's get sales and things like that. But I found myself like, okay, I'm lacking this part of connection with my clients and with my prospects. And then I went looking for, okay, who's better than a woman to teach me on how to connect with people? And I went to look for my first female mentor, Marie Forleo, and there was like a huge different world for me, and I will be the first to admit, like, we men are not like the best people when it comes to depth in emotions. So how was your experience with Cars when you find out like what men were doing with this part of the project?
I find that men have a tendency to just make women a bit secondary. We're not a main part of the plot. They're characters usually, and we're secondary characters. We're there to, so many films, the mothers of the main characters are dead because it's just easier to make it without them. That was the excuse I used to get. Where is the mother? Why isn't there a mother in this? Well, it was just easier to do without her. And I'm like, holy crap. It's just, so, there were a lot of things, a lot of questions I brought up that it was just, John really didn't want to be bothered with them. So we just left it at that. I had a good time on it, and it's done very well, but you don't see many little girls running out to watch Cars because it's very boy-centric.
Yeah, now you just answer like the big questions that we all had, like why all these characters doesn't have any mother?
Because there are no mothers working on them mostly. Yeah. It's all dad. Oh my God, wouldn't life be so much easier without the mother? They'd find out differently if we weren't there.
Okay. I will say otherwise. I will think that my life will have been much harder without my mother. But anyway, I've seen as well. Like, yeah, I've seen as well. Like, for example, if you see the interviews, like when we were looking for animators and people in the animation industry, there was a point like, hey guys, like we are just interviewing men, like where are the women? And we went to a friend of ours, a graphic designer who was giving us help with the backgrounds, and she's like really into it, and she told us like, no, there's not too many women like in the industry. So why do you think that is? Right now in El Salvador, in Central America. But our team, at least, if we put it this way, like very female centric, like we have more female members in our team than male members, but we haven't found, like internationally speaking, many women in animation or in the industry at all. So why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's changing because when I went to Cal Arts, I was one of 5 out of 34 students, one of 5 women. That's about, I think it's about 13%. Don't quote me on that because my math is terrible, but it's really small. But now at Cal Arts, there are more women than there are guys. It's like 60% women and 40% guys. So I think the big thing was that they were never truly welcomed in the industry. I mean, Walt Disney said in his ads for employee, you know, when he was looking for animators, it says women need not apply. You know, they just did. So we were, you know, discouraged for many, many decades, and it's just only recently that, you know, when young women watching cartoons and they watch, you know, the videos or whatever that come along, you know, the making ofs and in the book, that they see other women being part of it, that they get, you know, oh, wait a minute, if they can do that, there's a woman, I can do that, you know. So I feel like I'm one of those people that might have, you know, opened a door for someone, and Lisa Keene and Kathy Altieri and Kathy Zielinski and so many others that and Sue Croyer. There are some that were there back in the 70s and 80s that sort of were starting to be seen, and so it's just been a slow trickle. But I just got back from Annecy, and there were a ton of women there, women animators, and they won prizes, and so they're there. They're there. They might not be in El Salvador, but they're there.
That's good to know. Also, why do you think, or better say it, what are the biggest challenges that people can find in this career, like in this industry, but the challenges that not many people are talking about, but that they are there? Like what would those be?
Well, I'm not sure how the industry in El Salvador works, but are you talking about maybe the studio system?
No, worldwide.
Worldwide.
Yeah,
I think distribution is the biggest challenge for filmmakers in animation. Unless you are at the big studios, it's really hard to get worldwide distribution. It's hard to get your work out there and seen unless you just do it on YouTube and, you know, try to get as many hits as you can. But I think that's a big struggle, and because of the big studio system, the studio styles, that's all anybody tries for, to get the big distribution. They want to emulate Pixar and Disney and DreamWorks and all of those, and it's kind of sad, you know, because that's very limiting, and they're all trying to emulate each other, you know. it's kind of incestual in that sense. But what I have been finding, that I've been speaking and going out more internationally and becoming more aware of the international market and the artists that are out there that are more individual, you know, they have their individual styles that really stand out. I think what always surprises me when I talk to the young people is how badly they want to go to the States and start work on one of those big studios like Pixar or Disney or whatever. And I think the sad thing is that they don't realize that once you get into that studio system, you are forced to do the studio style, and your individual creative vision gets kind of tucked away. You have to put it away and do somebody else's kind of work. So it just depends on how passionate you are about your own creative style, or if you're passionate about, I just want to work on one of those. I think it would be so much fun, you know, and you're less concerned about putting your own creative style out there. I think that's kind of a question you have to ask yourself when people talk about that. Is that answering your question?
Yeah, definitely. And now that you mentioned, this is something that we've seen for some time. Like, for example, when we look for the concept art of Frozen, like all the styles are so different from the one in the movie, and we think like, but this is so much better. Why they don't do it this way? Like, why do they have to look all alike? And I get it, the marketing, the formulas, and all that, but when we see the art, the concept art from the other artists, is like,
yeah. Oh my gosh, that'd be so much better. Yes, I hear you. I can't tell you how many movies I've worked on where it's like, oh my gosh, if it could only look like that. Yeah, I think right now, especially in the industry in the States, that marketing is running the creative decisions. Markets, it's sort of like the tail wagging the dog a little bit, instead of where when we were doing Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast, we were doing these movies and doing, wouldn't it be cool to do this? Let's do this one, and we'll do it the best we can and the way we know how. And then marketing figured out how to market it. Now it's the other way around. Marketing says, we want to sell this kind of movie, so make this kind of movie. And it's, they don't, I think marketing in the big studios are just a bunch of lazy people, because they don't want to market something fresh and new. If I said, you know what, I don't want to direct this kind of movie. I don't know how to direct that kind of movie. So I want to direct something I already did, I get fired, so, okay, fine, I'll find another director. It's like, so why marketing gets away with that, I just don't know. But they try to get the money coming in. So, but I think it's very short-sighted.
Yeah, definitely.
That's just my opinion.
Definitely on the side, like, I understand the marketing side, I understand the numbers, but at the same time, I understand the art. I've been lucky enough to be able to be on both positions. But again, like, for example, we see movies like The Secret of Kells, which has so much amazing art, like art itself, like it's so easy.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Yeah. It's and it's because they don't try hard enough to sell it. They think they make a judgment call and then don't even make an effort to try to sell it. So, it's if we keep going the way marketing is going now, we're not going to have any more that first Star Wars movie or that E.T. or that, that first thing that was like, wow, that's cool, I haven't seen anything like that before. That will disappear. Those kind of movies will be gone because marketing just want to keeps make, so we're going to have 153 Star Wars and we're going to have, 62 Frozens, and we're going to have, it's like people are going to get tired of that,
Yeah, this is where I think the internet and everything has come into place to show like the individual talents. But again, like I feel like the individual talents still lack, I don't know, the clarity of how to make this project work and reach all the people that needs to reach.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say there that would be the hidden challenges of independent animation and movie production?
Well, I think first off, you have to have characters that the audience can relate to and a story that works with those characters. I think that's the main thing. You can market the heck out of a movie, and sometimes the bad ones make really good money, but I think the ones that last, the ones that people will continue to watch over the years, are the ones where they relate to the characters. There's a connection, heart to heart, whether it be through humor, whether it be through emotion, or both, or just the look of the film speaks to you. There's got to be something there that touches the audience somehow for it to last. There are a lot of films that are flashes in the pan and, go, oh, it's record breaking, but then nobody ever watches it again. A year or two later, no one cares. But animated films are the ones that last because they usually start when people are young, children are very young and watch them, and it just sinks into them. But it also touches, if a good animated film is done, it also touches the parents and the grown-ups who watch it, because then they want to show it again, to different people and recommend it to other parents. So it's I think you have to have something that touches your heart, that makes you really root for the characters in the story.
So something that I think is hard about art, and this is why I respect it so much, is because, like in business, you can do certain things that can get you results really fast, but in art, like there is no shortcut to putting all the hours into doing the work that you need to do to become a better artist.
Mm-hmm.
So on that topic, what will be your recommendations for people who want to become better artists and how to focus their time on the day? So to become, like, what would be your recommendations for them?
Well, it depends on, the type of art that they want to do. If they want to be an animator and a traditional animator, then, go places where there are lots of people or animals and just draw all the time, make sketchbooks, draw every day, be disciplined, just draw. For stories, I, watched movies a lot. I read books, and then I just, ever since I can remember, I make up stories in my head. It's like a muscle you use, and you just, and I was constantly getting in trouble at school for daydreaming all the time. So, it's just, don't let that go away. And I still occasionally, when someone's talking, I'll sort of drift off. They say something that makes me think of something. and it's like, oh, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that, please? So I think it really depends on what art you are drawn to. What is your art? And then think about how you can strengthen it, and then do whatever it is you think you can use to strengthen it every day. Even on your days off, because it's art, it's not going to disappear. It's not a 9-to-5 existence when you're an artist. Is that, it's sort of a free-form answer, but does that help, or do you want me to get more specific? Can you be more specific with your question?
Any reason right now? Well, that one definitely helps, but I'm thinking as well, now that we have all those resources of the internet, do you know any resources that people can look and to get some practice, or people who they can find online so they can start?
There is a friend of mine, Michael Matisse, who is the Drawing Force. It's theforce.com, I think it's called. But he has several books about how to draw a figure and to I'm probably saying this wrong, but it's like gesture drawing on steroids. Is kind of, I at Disney, I went to a class by Walt Stanfield, and he taught gesture drawing, and it was kind of a quick sketch version of life drawing, but you had to capture the mood, the attitude, the whole thing, and worry less about the mechanics of the body, but the what the body says, the body language. So I think Michael has taken that even further, and so that's a great resource right there. And Walt Stanfield's, he's done like they published 2 or 3 of his books called gesture drawing. Trying to think of it. You caught me off guard. I should have had all that written out. But I think there's so many, if you look up just Pixar artists online, you're going to find a ton of their blogs and their work online that will lead you to other links, or some of them teach classes, some of them show up at festivals, they'll do workshops and that kind of thing. So I would just go online and look up, your favorite artists, your favorite studios, your favorite films, or whatever, and then find the links that get you to the artists who created that stuff, and see if they offer classes or where they learned how to do it, and just, there's so many threads. It's like being a little detective trying to find it all, but it's there. So yeah, go for it.
Awesome. Also, something that I want to ask you more on the professional side of things. Let's say, for example, I know a lot of good artists here in the country, but to be fairly honest, like the industry the creative industries here are zero. Again, with the internet, we have been able and lucky enough to be born into this era and to tap into a lot of opportunities worldwide. But what will be your recommendation for people who have the talent, who have put the work, but how to help them to find the opportunities, even if it is not in their countries?
Ooh, that's tough. It's hard for me to say since I'm not in that situation. My instinct would be to find those other people, and it sounds like maybe you have already, but bring them together, and try to create a studio and try to create a business that can work within your country, but also if it means pulling work from internationally, like commercials or small TV spots, or something on the internet that would be monetarily feasible. But I think animation to me is such a collaborative effort. So bringing artists together is just going to make that thing stronger, and it might actually grow. It might just be the seed that you need to grow, is to bring everybody together. And if they have a passion to do that, I know that there's a company in South Africa. They sort of had the same problem, but then a bunch of artists got together and they set up this co-op, and they do work together, and they have a lot of like corporate films and commercials and short films and TV and all that. They grew. So I mean, they're still small, but they are doing what they love to do. So it's hard for me to say. I'm in a country where there's a big industry, so I'm not really the one to ask for advice on that. Just
still wisdom in people in different positions than ours that can give us a little bit of insight on that. Let me see. What are your favorite animated films of all history?
Oh, that's so hard. Well, I love the old Disney films. I love Lady and the Tramp and Dumbo and Pinocchio and all of those. Those are my favorites. But so the one that really touched me, that was outside of the norm, was The Man Who Planted Trees. Have you ever seen that one? It's by French-Canadian animator.
No, I haven't. I will after this.
I'm sorry?
I will after this.
Okay.
After this interview, I'm going to watch it.
It's beautiful, and it's all done with sort of like Prismacolor pencils, fully rendered, just beautiful, just absolutely stunning. And one man did the whole thing. And it's a short film, but it's a piece of art, a moving piece of art, but it's also I connect with the characters, and I was drawn in by the story, and it was beautiful. So yes, I highly recommend watching that.
You just remember the way you told me how it was done. You just remember me The Dam Keeper by Robert Kondo.
Yes.
And Daisutsumi. And I was so into the film, and then I found out like every frame was a painting, and I was like, yeah, like that
I
was
know.
what for me. It just moved my whole respect into that. Like,
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, that's a beautiful film. Beautiful
definitely.
film.
Once I found out that it was just all paintings, every frame, for me, it had completely my respect.
Oh yeah,
So yeah,
they're incredible artists. They are. I'm amazed that they did that and managed to get it out there. It's just gorgeous.
and how will be your favorite method to animate something?
Oh, I love traditional animation. I miss it very much. I see, the strengths of CG. You don't have to worry about the cleanup line being perfect, and you don't have those things where you're going, oh, look at it, it's wobbling. It is what it is. But there's something to me, all the imperfections in a traditionally animated film and the way they're animated and the tactile feel of pencil to paper, and being able to do things spontaneously. I don't know. I just think it's beautiful. That's my favorite, is traditional.
Awesome. Uh, Let me see. There was an interview that I did with Fred Seibert. He
With who?
definitely Fred Seibert from
Oh, okay.
Frederick.
Uh-huh.
He recommended all the new talents to do like really short films, like 1 minute films, a lot of animations to get better. Uh, would you recommend to do the same, like as a challenge or something like that?
Yes, absolutely, because it's really going to make you appreciate every aspect of creating one of these films. You have to art direct it, you have to production design it, you have to design the characters, you have to cast the character, you have to do all of that on top of whatever that thing is that you just really love to do. So, yeah, it's a huge education to get one of those done. And now, because of all the technology, you can do a finished looking film. Back in my day when I was at Cal Arts, it was a pencil test, layers of paper, and you could see through the characters, and it was hard. But yeah, I think that's a great idea. Everyone should.
Is there any personal challenge you would like to put the artists who will be watching this interview?
Oh, I would challenge not only doing the minute film, I would challenge doing a storyboard that have at least two characters that come at each other from two totally different points of view, but that end up working it out somehow in the end, where they accept each other's point of view, or they just somehow working those characters where they do a little dance around trying to figure out how to accept each other. Because it's really important. Human nature is in everything we do, because we're humans. So whether those two characters are humans, or whether they're animals, or whether they're plants, or whether they're space creatures, or whatever, everything we create is going to have some human nature in it. So two opposing viewpoints coming together and creating something bigger than the two of them. That's what I challenge someone to do. Whether they make that into a film, I don't care. Just do a storyboard, make that.
We'll take you on that challenge and let you know as soon as we have it finished. Since you are like a great writer and we have the opportunity to do this, I found like lately there have been a lot of artists who are coming up who didn't have like maybe the best skills, but they had a great story, and that's why people love that, even if the drawings weren't perfect or even ugly. But uh, what would be your recommendations into first creating a great history and second, becoming a better history maker?
I'm not sure I understood the question. Can you please repeat that?
The first thing will be, what will be your recommendations on how to create a great story? So let's start with that.
History or a story?
Yes, the history of the film.
Okay. The story of the film. You mean the story? Okay. Like I said, I think you have to have characters that the audience can relate to. You have to have a good guy and a bad guy. And the bad guy doesn't have to be another character. It can be the elements. It can be an object, you know. But for a film, you just have to have something the audience can relate to. So there has to be a sense of reality in there somewhere, something real that they can grab onto. As long as there's something real, you can have the most fantastical story ever, but there has to be something real, and that's usually the relationships between the characters. You need to have a good theme. I strongly believe in that, that you can hang your hat on. It's like the clothesline. It's like the rope in the snowstorm that you hang on to as you're making the you don't know about snowstorms, so it's if you're having trouble on a story and you try to take a left turn and it's the wrong turn, you can go back to that rope of the theme. Is it serving my theme? Is it like Beauty and the Beast? Don't judge a book by its cover. So everything that happened in that film came back to don't judge a book by its cover. And so it's, you know, the truth will set you free, or you know, be careful what you wish for, it may come true. You know, that kind of, you just have to find that thing that drives your main character and drives your plot. And I think that will give you a very solid, cohesive film that you can then add all the bells and whistles you want onto it, as long as it has that core.
Awesome. And also, how can somebody become better at creating histories?
At what?
At creating histories.
Okay.
Like, what will be the practice or the challenges that you will give somebody? Okay, do this every day and you will become better at creating these histories.
Boy, that's a tough one, because it's different for everyone. But I'd say watch the movies that are the most memorable, your favorite movies. You know, watch maybe a movie a day, or read a book, or whatever that story that speaks to you is, and then dissect it. Look at it and say, okay, what about the main character? What is their journey? You know, follow their journey in that, you know, and all the things that, where do their turning points happen? And, you know, look at another character, you know, like the villain or just a side character, and how does that journey support our main character? And, you know, what visuals did they use to support that story, and how did they use the camera? And you will soon learn that everything revolves around the story and the main character. You have to keep going back to that, and you can have all this funny stuff that, you know, goes off on the side, but if you don't have a really strong main character and story. So I would say look at films and dissect them. Just go through and make notes about what you like about them. You know, go through and plot it out. Like, you know, what's the first act? What's the second act? What's the third act? And how did that change? You know, and go through that. And so a movie, you know, one movie may take you a week or so to really dissect it, you know, but yeah, choose a movie, and however long it takes you to describe each character, figure out what the theme of the film is, plot it out, you know, first act, second act, third act, what that is, and all of that. That's going to just make that muscle, that story muscle in your head keep going.
Great. Also, if you had to start from zero and you had all your knowledge, all the experience that you have, but you have, let's say you wake up in a different dimension and nobody knows you, and you want to get back into the industry and you have all your knowledge and all the resources that we have now, what would you do?
Would I come back into the industry, or would I?
Yes. Or, well, first, will you come back into the industry or will you go independent? And depending on that, what would you do?
Wow, that's a big question. What would I do? Well, wow. I think that I would just maybe take the same path I took, but avoid some of the problems that I had. Yeah, I take the same path. You know, I'm in a good place where I'm at, and I just do it all over again, I think. I might invest in Apple early on.
But if you were like, let's say in the present time with all the resources that we have now, what would you take advantage of?
I'm not sure how to answer that. I feel like I'm doing that now. I feel like I have all my resources and I've had a lot of experience under my belt, and I'm trying to do that now. I'm starting my own company. So
nice. Also, what would be a good an advice that you would give to creators now and to artists that you don't think that is being talked about a lot?
I would say there's a lot of talk about creativity and your creative freedom, or your own vision, or you want to make your own story, or you want to take your own story to get to a studio and get your story up big on the screen. I just say beware and protect yourself, protect your property, protect your own ideas. I'll just give my example. Brave was my idea, my baby, and it belongs to Pixar, and I don't get anything for it, and it's all Pixar Disney now. And so, I'm thrilled that it's out there. I'm thrilled that so many people are getting, so much out of it. But at the same time, it's a little sort of hard to watch someone make, millions and millions and millions of dollars from it, billions, eventually, and not have a share in that at all. And I'm not a greedy person. It's just, it's a little hard. So I would say protect yourself. If you really have a great idea and you want to do it and you want a studio to do it, put it in a form first. Do a book, self-publish a little book, because that way they'll have to buy it from you. Because when you walk into a studio and you start working for them, you sign away all of your creative rights to everything you think of while you're working at that studio. So write down all the stuff you've thought of before you work at one of those studios, and that they're called carve-outs. And you write down all in like 1 or 2 sentences, all the ideas you've had, and those are mine. And you can say that you say, you can't have these because I thought of them before I started working there. That's one way to do it. And the other way is to make them before you get there with the idea. So it's not just a script, but it's a published book or something like that. Just be aware that big business is trying to just take from you, and they will if you let them. So you just protect yourself, look into how you can have the rights to your own work.
Awesome. That's a really practical and good advice that we are definitely going to take just in case. I think we want to fight the battle and be independent, but we don't know where. Like, there have been so many things that we didn't even think that we were going to do, like, I don't know, 2 months ago, that we don't know where this is going to take us. So, so yeah. And
well, good.
any other, yes. And what would be an advice you would like to give? Just like a free advice, or anything else you want to touch?
I'd say be respectful to your other artists. Be collaborative. Don't try to bully someone into your own ideas. Listen to other people's ideas. That's the whole part about animation being a collaborative process. I'm good at what I do, but I know there's always someone out there who's going to have a better idea. There are going to be people out there who have worse ideas, but how are you going to know if they're better or worse if you don't bother to listen to them? So I'd say be open. Don't ridicule people for giving a bad idea, because often bad ideas can spark really great ideas. So so be open to collaboration and support each other. And if you're really determined to get your own way, do it in a way that isn't going to take someone else down to do it. I don't believe in walking over people to get to the top. I believe that walking with people makes you stronger.
On that topic, even we try to be open and to do that, but obviously there are some moments when you will face, let's say, problematic people. How would you recommend to deal with those type of people when that moments arrive? Like, you're trying to do things right.
Yeah, I always, if someone brings up something that I know doesn't work for the film, as a director, you're the one fielding all of the ideas coming in, say. And I always listen, and it's like, great, if that's better, I wonder how we can work that in. If it doesn't work, I take the time to explain to them why it doesn't work. Most of the time that works fine and they get it. But if they're problematic and they are really stubborn and they won't do it, then you just have to say, I'm sorry, it just doesn't work. And you can't, there's a point where you just have to say, sorry, we can't do it that way. We're going to be doing it this way. And I repeat again why, and I keep moving. And then it's up to them whether they want to join in and be part of it, or if they want to make themselves miserable and be mad and go away. That's their issue. But you haven't done anything to stomp on them. It's just you give your reason and you move on. And hopefully they'll move on with you as opposed to away from you.